Hello everyone, my name is Ethan, and I'm here to teach you about false chord fundamentals. So to start this out, I want to establish that, of course, this is just going to be the baseline first part of the series. I'm going to teach you how to do false chord distortion before we start working on towards making our actual screams. False chord is one of the distortions that's commonly referred to. Fry is another. I personally don't really apply myself to those specific types of terms given to them, but they can be useful in guiding us to where we're going. So, of course, in your favorite videos, you're going to hear lots of very intense noises, and that is our end goal. That is not where we're going to start out at. And these three items that I'm going to give you are going to be useful in starting your journey to making those noises. Now, I also want to establish, first off, that your voice is going to be very different from a lot of everybody else's voices. Now, there's a chance that you sound similar to me, to someone else, but you're most likely going to have your most unique sound coming from your own structures in your body. And I honestly think that's very cool because it gives you a lot of opportunities for creating special noises that nobody's ever heard before. So, let's get started on working on your first false chord distortion. This first one that we're going to talk about is the most commonly used and commonly referred to. It's best laid out by Mark from Cardivox Academy. I'm going to go ahead and link him down in the description and in an iCard on the top right corner. So, the first one is the sigh. So, if you want to imagine yourself, close your eyes. Imagine yourself in a scenario. Whether you're 30 or whether you're, I don't know, an infant or something. Maybe not an infant. But imagine yourself. You're young. You walk into your room and your mother or your guardian, whoever it may be, complains that you haven't cleaned up your room yet and you need to clean up your room. Or she wants you to go do the dishes. So you give yourself a big, miraculous sigh. Now that you got that in your mind, the sigh is where you want to start out. Now, a lot of our sighs aren't very aggressive, let's say. So you're just going to get the air, the higher frequencies of your sigh. And you don't want to be embarrassed about starting out with these noises either. So it's best to just cut it off at the bud and get over your fears of sounding weird, because you're going to sound really weird either way, whether you're making weird sounds on purpose or on accident. So, start out with your sigh. Now imagine you've got an angry sigh. Now, since I've done this for a while, it's going to sound a little bit more refined, but it's something that everybody should be able to do. Now, if you paid attention in that sigh, there's something that's behind it, and you'll hear it and feel it in the back of your throat, your mouth cavity, whatever you want to call it. You're going to feel it more towards the back. Now, what you want to do is practice holding that sigh with that little bit of rattling in the back. You want to practice holding, oh gosh, my glasses are bothering me. They've been bothering me the entire time, and you can see the glare in them anyways, so I'm going to get rid of them. So, what you want to do is practice holding that sigh sound with the rattling in behind. I'm sorry, my cat is bothering me. Now, once you have that rattling, it's going to take a while. You have to admit to yourself that you're going to have to spend some time working on it. And now I can't really give you a frame of reference of how long that's going to take because it's taking different times for every person. But for me, it took me a couple weeks to get that ready to go. Now, once you have that, your next step is to take out the breathiness from it. So the now that takes practice to do as well. So cat. What are you doing? What are you doing, Penny? Anyways, now that you have your baseline distortion, it doesn't sound like all that much. Now, what you don't want to do whenever you have your distortion is the breaking sound. And it's similar as it is in singing. So if you imagine what a singer's voice breaking sounds like, it's very similar. There's two different ways that I can think of that your voice breaks that are dangerous, that you don't want to lean into because it'll damage your voice. Mark from CHORD Academy lays that out very well, but I'll give you an example of it. So the that's the sound right there. That can be started out by practicing your false chord distortions. But you have to recognize whenever your voice comes in scratchy and whenever it breaks through the distortion in inconsistent ways, you're most likely breaking your voice in the way that'll damage your voice. It's easy for us to latch on to that distortion and try to turn it up and do it harder or stronger or more powerful to make a scream out of it. And now you can, but it sounds terrible and it's bad for your voice. Now our second form of creating this distortion, which is still false chord, is also laid out by CHORD Academy, I believe. It's the coughing sensation. Clearing your throat, I mean. Sorry. Clearing your throat. So, now, if you pay attention to that feeling, even you can hear it in my voice, you have the distortion, but you also have the breaking sensation that can damage your voice. One is good, one is bad. So you have to control that sensation and recognize when your voice is making the breaking. So that's dangerous. And it's even hurting me right now. There's a way of doing these vocals where you don't have to hurt yourself at all, and you can still make crazy noises. So that's more of a body. You get more body in it, since you are using your chest to make the coughing sensation. And from that point, we'll do the same thing as we did with the first test, is learn to hold it longer. And then, once again, try to work on taking your breath out of it, your voice out of it. Now, our third form of creating this distortion is one that I believe I've never heard talked about before, but it's kind of interesting. I'm not sure if this is just because of the way I do my own distortions, but I believe this is a good starting point. But I want you to imagine yourself as Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob. Think of it in your mind. You know what he sounds like? Sponge boy me Bob! Exactly like that. If you paid attention up until this point, that's already very similar to what I've been teaching you already. So, do exactly what we've been doing up until this point. Work on holding that note. Mr. Squidward! Mr. Squidward! Now, if you want to avoid breaking as much, it's still, if you're first starting out doing distortions in the first place, it's a little bit easier to do vocal breaks in general. But if you want to avoid it or maybe curb it a little bit more, add some more diaphragm, more body to it. Mr. Squidward! Instead of Mr. Squidward, Mr. Squidward! Push more air out, use your diaphragm. It's a lot less about pushing more air out, breathing out. It's more about using your diaphragm to add more pressure and then tightening it up and then allowing the distortion to go further through your vocal tract. So instead of going, it's instead of. So it's a little bit difficult to get a grasp of. But with practice, you should be able to, instead of Mr. Squidward, Mr. Squidward, you can do Mr. Squidward. And that's basically entirely up to me adding more pressure in my diaphragm, adding up to my vocal tract. Now, you should be set up perfectly to start off on your vocal journey with false chord. In my experience with lows, highs, and whatever else you want to do, I am more of what I would say a fry, but I certainly use false chord in a lot of different ways to do more of a human sound, or even in my distortion and my lows. Both of those are false chord distortions. But in my learning, I believe you can use a false chord distortion to learn how to do a Fry style distortion or an epiglottal type distortion, I believe. Mark from Cardivox Academy is way better at explaining that stuff than I am. So once again, down in the description, look for Cardivox Academy. But adding more tension in the back of my throat where the false chord distortion is happening has led me to a more clicky sound that I've used in a lot more of my high screams and pretty much all of my screams in general. So instead of the start tightening, and now it sounds terrible, but if I go adding my mouth shape, that is using the same type of distortion, but all with different mouth shapes. Now, you don't want to focus on mouth shapes. Maybe I'll focus on mouth shapes in another video, but this is your baseline of starting the distortion. Once you get the distortion laid out, you're good to start just doing whatever you want and experimenting, just as long as you're not using the incorrect type of distortion that will damage your voice. Now, once you have those, you're free to just go and do what you want. Let me know in the comments if this was helpful, and let me know if this series of learning how to scream was helpful to you, and if you want me to do more videos in the future. I have plans to do almost all types of screams that I personally do, and maybe working on intimidating other vocalists. I'm not sure about that. We'll have to see. But let me know down in the comments. If you like these types of videos, what screams you think I should cover in the future videos, what songs you may want me to cover, anything like that. Just feel free to let me know, and yeah, I hope you all have a good day. Thanks for watching. Couldn't forget that.